So I'm not sure if I can put it in terms, but I was wondering, since we were talking about like conflicts and the evil yesterday, what it is that we could do, and I understand that it's nothing to be done at the same time, but in terms of, because I remember you saying, you were talking about Vata, and you were saying that we need...
Can you speak up a little bit? And sort of,
oh, sorry. We need to, or I don't remember exactly how you put it, but the imagery remained that the awareness needs to go in all the cavities to see everything that is in, to kind of recognize it and see it, and so it can be dealt with in a way.
So it's simply being brought to the conscious level of awareness, yeah, so it's being acknowledged.
Exactly. And then I was wondering if we're kind of part of one mind also, and one also, what's the word, common psyche. There's like this known term that doesn't come to mind, that there could be something that we need to be looking to, yeah, like in the everyday I would get angry, or I would even feel my body having like aggression, even if I'm not thinking about anything, because I'm concentrating on something completely different. So this is just an example of, yeah, I don't think I'm getting anywhere, am I?
No, it's okay. It's okay. Don't give up just yet. It's fine. It's good. You're doing well. You're doing fine.
I was just wondering if we need to, I don't know, sometimes I'm imagining like, okay, how it would be to connect with some evil. Although it's not necessary, I'm thinking maybe I could speak to it. But of course it's kind of a delusion as well, but so maybe there is something that could be done, I guess, or something to be looked at, but I'm not sure what or how, or if it's just fantasy that I have, maybe. And just now we were speaking about purifying ourselves, or I think you mentioned it.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there is more to be done to see the evil, let's call it just that, and be and purify it. I don't know if it's a good
Okay,
question.
no. I get what you're saying. I understand, and I maybe sense more than understand. So it's so there are ways how we can look into this. Perhaps in lieu of what we just discussed prior to this, it will be fitting to bring again the understanding of how evil is seen in Vedic culture. What is evil? And this may give us insights into the state of the affairs. Or else we could also lean on some other perennial understandings, so maybe more religious understandings, right? The see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, right? You know this, very well known in Christianity. Axioms that it's basically not to give evil expression. But we will speak first about the Vedic perspective here, and then we can see if that can be analogous, or if we can bring that example into this, what we are faced with today, where this greater, perhaps, sense of personal responsibility in what do we do in the face of it all. Right? If I understand you correctly, what can be done on the part of each and every one of us? What part am I playing? Am I at all significant? Right? Does anything I do, think, act matter? Right? Is it more or less the line of thought? More or less the line of inquiry? Or
yeah, I mean, it's not really clear for me for myself what the question is, but how is it even like, I mean, just in general terms in real life, how is it even possible? Like, why? I mean, it's just our little lives are already enough suffering. Why does it need to be like so dramatic? I mean, dramatic is not the correct term, but I mean, it's like if it's just consciousness playing with itself and da-da-da, and then we have like, we're all like we're developing also, right? So, and then just practically speaking, I'm not sure why this, like, I'm sorry that I'm so confused, but I'm not sure why this is happening, because who needs that? It's so super unnecessary. I'm sorry if I'm sounding ignorant.
what is super unnecessary?
Like war? How is it even... I mean, people are in a completely different state of mind, I think. I don't know. So who is generating this? So, okay, it's not one person, because obviously this one person is kind of an avatar of some consciousness that wants things to be happening. But who are these people? What do they want? I don't understand. What is this consciousness? How do I relate to it? Is it part of my consciousness? I mean, yeah, okay, we're all one consciousness. I'm aware, I'm kind of clear about the concept, but there is like a lot that is unclear in the whole system. And I'm sorry if I'm making a big mess at the end.
No, it's maybe this is very much needed, this kind of mess. Because, I mean, frankly, and let us just look into this in degree of where understanding is required, first and foremost, that reality here is with regard to each corresponding level of consciousness. Even though the underlying reality, the absolute underlying reality is one and only reality, unified field, maybe we can call it, as it is often referred to by scientists, let's say, more contemporary folk, that unifying field, unified field, that what is also known as one and the only, Brahman, Yahweh, Allah, right? One and the only, Lord, ultimate reality, absolute, all different words for the same reality. But there are respective levels of reality which we cannot ignore. And we need to have clarity that at the underlying level, all this is oneness. And yet, we, equipped with this understanding, we also are advised to have clarity with regard to what moves and shakes other respective levels of reality down to this, what is being experienced by all of us on a daily basis. So this is why I have suggested to look into that, let's say, Vedic understanding with regard to how things go astray, or how something which is supposed to be expression of perfection itself gets out of hand. So, first of all, Vedic understanding, which, by the way, is analogous in this case, very much with many other traditions that are known as being perennial understanding. Perennial. It's not changing with time. And we can find this in other cultures, where the understanding that what we call evil, right, has to exist. It has its place. It has its place and purpose even. Now, you've heard about the concept of different epochs, yugas, no? There are 4 distinctive epochs, 4. In the Occident as well, there is this understanding of ages: Golden Age, Silver Age, Bronze Age, and Iron Age. And we apparently find ourselves right now in the Iron Age. So this corresponds to the Vedic understanding of the time, which is concentric, known as Manvantara, and which deals with the same concept of reality, known as Sat Yuga, Dvapar Yuga, Tret Yuga, and the Kali Yuga, which are now, right now, which is also often referred to as Dark Age. What this is that each of these epochs is characterized by the amount of natural law that is prevalent and manifested throughout, where everything coexists in coherence and equilibrium, and no part violates the whole, no the whole violates any of its parts. So this is characteristic of the Sat Yuga, the age of truth, the age of Sat, Sat Yuga, or Golden Age. Golden Age in Western thought. So in Sat Yuga, 100% of this natural law manifests throughout. 100%. In other words, everything functions in accord with the inborn nature. Nothing goes outside. It's in synchronicity. There is not like as if there's not enough this or not enough that. The same is right now. We live in time when there's no such thing as there's a lack of something. Something else took place. So, in preceding ages, something begins to happen. Something begins to happen. The amount of natural law begins to diminish with each age. Let's say in the next, we call it now in Western language, Silver Age, 25% of that is lost, but 75% is still there. So the situation is not as dramatic. 25% already of the natural law at the manifested level is lost. Then it proceeds further. It comes to that balancing point where it's 50-50. 50% now is lost. Only 50% of the natural law is remaining. Natural law here, in Vedic terms spoken of as Dharma. Dharma is on all 4 in Satya Yuga. In other words, it's a very stable situation. Now it's 50-50. Some scholars suggest, and there's a lot of, that this is the time when necessity for spiritual practice arises, for religions, commandments, language. See? Prior to that, everything is in the ocean of, let's say, equanimity. In Sat Yuga, perhaps language is not required. Right? Let's fantasize for a moment. We all communicate in telepathic manner. We don't need to express ourselves in language. We don't need to be understood, you see? We are, in fact, not separate from water, from birds, from sky, from earth, from what we eat, what we breathe. Paradise. There's no need for articulating something. So, but that is lost now, diminishing. So this is suddenly where the need arises for reminding. So Dharma needs to be upheld. Dharma, the eternal law. And it goes to the dramatic situation where 75% is lost, because in Kali Yuga, in Dark Age, in the Iron Age, only 25% of natural law is manifest at the manifest level. See? So in other words, it's an age of ignorance. That's how it's referred to. Age of ignorance. Dharma now on a single leg. We know how unbalancing that, what a balancing act that is. The metaphor is given. So it needs to be supported. It needs to be supported. Suddenly there is a need rises for really quite some effort to support that. Nothing can be taken for granted. So all this is just to give us this kind of a brief outlook. Now, in each of these respective ages, according to Vedic thought, there is a different situation with regard to these energies. So, evil, which is understood to be as a part and parcel, it's necessary. Because evil here, not understood in Christian terms, but maybe if we study some of the Christian mystics, theologians, maybe we can also arrive to a much more complex understanding of the evil than what was portrayed in the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri, which basically gave us that made the evil, though it was composed in the early phases of the Renaissance, right? The actual Divine Comedy is, if you have heard about the Divine Comedy, right? Divine Comedy is a kind of self-reflective work of the poet Dante Alighieri was, where he is taken by his favorite ancient writer, ancient poet, Virgil, through the realms of hell, purgatory, and paradise, all together known as Divine Comedy. And the metaphysics, the theological outline and perspective, for example, for hell, is given as obviously existed prior to Dante Alighieri, where all these levels of reality of hell are given all the way down to the lake Katsit, where Lucifer, who, as we know, has been struck down for his betrayal, for his arrogance first, arrogance and betrayal, down to the bottom of the hell. Hell is composed of the concentric wheels and degrees of so-called falling or sin. Like, for instance, in the first ring of the hell, there are a lot of very, very, we could say, innocent people, heroes of antiquity. It's kind of very funny. But you know why? Because from Christian point of view, they were missed, born too early, born in the time of ignorance. Excuse me. Haven't had the chance to be baptized, haven't had the chance to be purified. Tough titty. You are in hell, my dear. You've been whatever, Odysseus, Achilles, whatever you've been. It's not a sin to kill people in a battle. You're a warrior. You should go to heaven for that. So all this, like Greek mythology, all the heroes are in hell, but only in the first ring. And then it gets steeper, deeper. Second already you've done something, is done, then third, it's like murderers, like betrayers, murderers, suicidal ones. But at the bottom of that is Lake Katsit, a frozen lake where Lucifer is being punished. And this is considered to be the epitome of evil, epitome. You see? This is where in Christian theological thought of its time, how it was portrayed. So this is why I said, if we are to speak now of Vedic concept of evil without Christian understanding, if we carry it with us, we might miss the point. In Vedic terms, it's like there are beings of light and beings of darkness. And they balance each other. They have to exist because that's how existence is made. Existence is made, begins with the start of polarity. Light, why is it light? Because there's darkness, right? Warm, cold, wet, dry, and so it goes. So, look at this. See into this. In Satya Yuga, beings of light and beings of darkness embody different realms of existence. Each dwell in respective realms. In other words, there is a realm where the beings of darkness, and that's their kingdom, that's their dwelling, that's their housing. And there is a realm of where the light beings dwell. As it now shifts the situation, in Dwapar Yuga, there is this shift, and the beings of light and the beings of darkness now no longer in their respective realms. Okay? They now come and intermingle. They come into each other's realms. You see? But it's still maintained. They quarrel, they might begin disputes about the property and appropriateness of what belongs to whom, but they still know their places. The situation continues as the diminishment of the natural law. Now we come to the Tret Yuga, where we now find ourselves in a very different situation. You see? The beings of darkness are now they live among us. They are now living in the realm, they mixed already. They no longer just come and go. They already come and they're there. Prior to that, in Satya Yuga, these realms, they don't even interact. They have nothing to divide, nothing to quarrel about. They know and have natural antimony towards each other, but they have nothing to claim, nothing to blame. But look what happens from Vedic point of view. In Kali Yuga, beings of light and beings of darkness now come into the arena of human soul. So It's a culmination of this, what was before belonging to different realms. Each realm has its own cosmic, let's say, placement. But in the Kali Yuga, in the age and day we live in now, the arena of the beings of light and beings of darkness now meet in our psyche. And that's where they begin to do their disputes. That's the Vedic understanding. You see? So in a way, however clumsy, whatever you were trying to say there, whatever you're trying to express, it's a necessary, in a way, addition, because perhaps of what we have spoken on the first night, I don't know, on Friday, so that we also have perhaps bring into our awareness a possibility that what if that, what this Vedic understanding dealing with, is a reality of a situation. So in other words, none of us are exempt. So in other words, this is the situation where the beings of light, if before they met on a battlefield somewhere, and they were distinctive beings of light, like let's say in the case of the Kurukshetra, in the case of the battlefield described in the Bhagavad Gita, the beings of darkness very clearly ended up on that side, and the beings of light are here. We know that, even if some people are inadvertently being pulled to be on the dark side because of the karmic repercussions. But in Kali Yuga, the situation is much more complex, much more, we could say, intricate, because the beings of light and beings of darkness now settle their disputes at the level of an individual psyche. You see? That's the Vedic understanding for you. So I thought to bring that just simply as into the conversation in terms of what do we do about evil, right? What is evil? See?
That's maybe also why I'm asking. I remember you telling us the story.
So,
or this understanding.
Yes. So, for example, we gave some critical analysis to Carl Jung's historical seminars on Kundalini in Zurich. But we also praised Jung for his extraordinary insights as well. And one such thing would be now his readiness to propose in a very logical manner a very different system and a very different understanding that in fact, a human psyche contains absolutely everything in itself. Everything. And their attempts were made by Carl Jung to reconcile what he had learned through the study of and his interests in Tantra and all things Indian and Asian with his deep understanding of Christianity, Christian theology, Christian mysticism, with his archetypes, right? And all this, his contribution, invaluable contribution into the field of psychology, which many people hold him as a patron figure, even today. So his propositions to this, that human psyche, in fact, is a place where all these forces of light and forces of evil, see? So in other words, in Jungian terms, coming to the maturity of the soul, maturity of the psyche, to be a grown-up being, is to be fully aware of all this, what otherwise is considered to be unconscious behavior, unconsciously driven motivations, unconscious this, unconscious that. And that includes also what would be considered and spoken in theological terms, in Christian terms, as evil. So unless we encounter evil within, unless we truly can have the courage of conviction, strength of resolve, to acknowledge this within ourselves. We are not fully developed individuals. This is an extraordinary proposition. Extraordinary. What makes psyche whole again, according to Jung, is that. You see? Not good and bad, this and that, you know. Oh, yes, it's someone else. I'm being abused. I've been this and that. I'm the victim. I'm this, or I'm a perpetrator. I'm this. I'm on top of the world. I'm here. I'm doing the great thing. Or something happening. Oh, how terrible it is. No. None of that. Everything is found within here. And once it's found within here, recognized within here, one can have a conscious relationship, conscious affair with that. Before that, there is no possibility for conscious affair, because we don't own it. So this to me is an extraordinary insight that Jung came up with. And it's also very, very Vedic, you see? So you will ask me in practical terms, you reflect on this. Everything we do, balance is there all the time. All the time, like very fine, infinitesimally fine balance. We will lose it many times. We will fall on our face many times. We fail. But there are times when doing the right thing, saying the right thing, giving the hearing to the right thing is what maintains the balance or disturbs that balance and tips the balance in favor of something. You see? In a single individual, in you and me, it's taking place. Nowhere else. We could even say, and this is very much Dostoevsky, this is why Dostoevsky is being heralded, and there's a revival as well, interest in Dostoevsky's work. I don't know if how many of you come across this. Like, if the entire happiness of the world depends on suffering of one child or death of one child, right? I don't want this happiness. It's an extraordinary suggestion, extraordinary insightful suggestion as well. See? It's been turned upside down, it's been kind of polemized as well, like because, you know, if it's thrown against the cultures that, for example, have known to perform human sacrifices, you know, and these human sacrifices were meant to be for propitiation of longevity, vitality, strength, right, of members of society. But it's not that. What here, the insight is here, you see? Let's say the entire, and we can see how this, for example, when something is indoctrinated, like how the end justify the means, right? That end justify the means, how, okay, well, you know what? Sometimes we need to, we know Europe went through that. We know Europe went through that. The rise of Nazism and the Nazi ideology was very much based on that. That for a future of a great, let's say, whatever, sacrifices need to be made. So all that, whatever, it's part and parcel of it, you see? Whereas Dostoevsky's suggestion, not a single, if one single child required for the happiness of the world, I don't want that happiness. That's very, very insightful and profound, you see? Because that happiness already will have a seed of wretchedness in it, which given time will sprout. Maybe he wasn't even thinking in these terms, we don't know. So, why I brought Jung here as well, and that's Vedic hymns, it's for you to connect this. But in practical terms, we find ourselves on a daily basis where we are too overworked, too tired, too this, too that, and it doesn't matter. We are not exempt. It doesn't matter. The destiny of the world is always decided in you and me, always. Not yesterday, not next Sunday, not in this retreat. You see? Always. Always. And it's not the burden to carry, it's a clarity to see this. If we turn it into a burden, it's a misunderstanding. It means that there's something we still having as that, what we spoke earlier, this collective samskaras, this Christian samskaras. It's not to make us feel heavy and guilty. Contrary to that, our job is to be happy and light. You see? Because the place here is where the beings of light and beings of darkness settling affairs. Again, it's only Kundalini that brings this, you know? Only Kundalini that brings this. Only Kundalini when you actually can witness all that muck. Because consciousness goes into pockets, crevices. Anatomically speaking, it's in Sushumna. And all karma is stored in Sushumna. Everything is in Sushumna. Everything, all impressions are in Sushumna. So it's being flushed out of the system. Flushed to the light. Not flushed down in the sense of flush as we flush the water down. Flushed as flushed into the light. Brought into the luminosity of our awareness. You see? Very often, and people, we can easily become victims of circumstances, variety of sorts, particularly in these ideological games. And very easy it is to jump on the bandwagon. This is why my videos at the time, when you mentioned the word war, why is this war? Well, there are plenty of voices now. People are waking up. They don't want this nonsense anymore. People are now on the streets, not just in Europe, in Australia. In Australia, on the streets, shouting out pro-Putin slogans, pro-Putin, and anti-Biden administration. Why shall we pay the price for American deal-making? Why should it be us on the receiving end? Why there's these decisions on our behalf? You see? So hopefully the people of France and Germany, the most politically active nations in Europe, and has always been, will wake up from this nightmare they submerge themselves and allow, because the North Atlantic Treaty is a design, and designed in the first place, not to withstand communism. No. Ideologically, yes. It is to make sure that no other superpower will rise. See? That's all. Europe shall never rise. That's what North Atlantic Treaty is. Charles de Gaulle was the only leader of the country who said, why shall French soldier die under the command of American general? I don't want that. And he pulled France out of the treaty. Unfortunately, he couldn't pull it completely, so at least France has a special status. Special status in NATO. No American general can command French forces. But the fact remains the same. Now we're speaking at this level of reality. You see? Clarity is required. This is why my first address to the Sangha was, get all the information you can before you jump into the conclusions and think you're a great pacifist and start like, yeah, Putla. You know that? Have you heard that term? It's a combination of word Putin and Hitler. Putla. You know, it's a very, very clever, or maybe not so clever, social media stunt, a PR. It's a PR war. And this PR war needs to be won in the hearts of and minds of people first. You see? Of course, our compassion, empathy, and, you know, goes towards Ukraine and everyone who dies there right now. But as Colonel McGregor has said, who is in retirement, one of the very, very known American commander, and YouTube is full of interviews and videos with him. He's in a great demand now, who has been covering this war from day one. He said it, Ukraine unfortunately is doomed in a worst possible way. Very sad, because it was decided to be a ground to settle certain affairs. It was meant to be a place to destroy Russia, who is partnering with other like Asian superpowers in the face of the imminent demise of the dollar. So it's a war as all other wars, you see? And it's not a war between Russian and Ukrainian people. And it takes a lot to separate wheat from the chaff. And I've seen intelligent people in various professions, peers in the field, jump on a gun right away, think that they all know it all already, and they immediately take sides, and very passionately as well. If you hear this, what this retired American general says there, Colonel McGregor, it's like, it's better than any political analysis I've heard by any specialist in the field, because he speaks the language of someone who spent all his life in the military, and he doesn't spare anymore. What it shows also is that a tremendous amount of consciousness on the rise, that some of these people from the United States who are in the age of retirement and could just yawn, relax, and watch their favorite program on TV, they, so to speak, deserved it after all. No, they came out and they speak out. Speak out. Listen to these people, and you will have a very, very different perspective on this, what's happening right now. And that also will give insights into the nature of evil. Also, in addition to what we just spoke. Evil is a great stress, unprocessed information, something rotting because it's been not processed, you see? It's failed to become a compost. It's became the breeding place of hydras of sorts. That's also what feeds evil, feeds dark forces. See? Insatiable greed, because that's what it is, and this colonel speaks to that. Insatiable greed has been driving all our policies, the policies of the United States, for decades on end. Why? Because as the Europe was in ruins of the Second World War, America came out as the richest country in the world. It's profited the most. Books are written about that. Books, works made, studies made about that. And how every single war, every single decade fought under the flags of democracy. 2 million people in Vietnam were killed. 2 million people of Vietnamese, and this colonel speaks about that. How the withdrawal from the Afghanistan, and now Ukraine. So there is an anatomy of evil, you see? But where is that anatomy leads? To the complacency. Complacency. Why our politicians of Germany and France, cannot see all this clearly? Are they blind? Now they see, but it's a very, very, now everyone is in a pickle. This is why one country after another now, they don't care anymore about the sanctions. The Nord Stream was bombed by it's a CIA job. China and Russia demands international independent investigation into this act of the largest criminal act. It's a property worth of billions. It's a private company. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Nord Stream?
Yeah.
One Swedes saying who cleaned up that we are in a position of information which is the subject of national security, so we'll not give it to anyone, even to Germans. You see? All this is parts and parcel and threads of the anatomy of evil. You see? When we can't even call spade a spade. It's easy to say this war is nonsense, people shouldn't die. Why? Why neighboring countries fighting? Why? This colonel speaks about that. Like the West is fighting autocratic regime because Ukraine is a democracy. You see? And that's what most people have been indoctrinated and made believe. But the fact that a single billionaire installs a puppet into a president, only few people really truly know and understand. Igor Kolominsky, his name, who is a very close friend and has close allies with Joe Biden's son, who has funded neo-Nazi organizations who were reabsorbed into National Guards and military of the Ukraine. You mark my words, everything will be turned completely upside down. Not The Hague will put Russia and Putin on trial. It will be the other way around. These people will be put on trial. Because light always wins. You see? This is one thing in Vedic culture, is that whatever is the case, whatever is at stake, light always wins, light always prevails. So the power of light beings, it's in their dharma to claim victory. You see? But in the meantime, complacency is part and parcel of evil. Being uninformed, poorly informed, settling on one set of information which is disinformation. Nothing changed in the world. We have to smarten up. So at this level, yes, we speak of Shadi Shankara. We carry that knowledge in the heart. But we shouldn't then completely confuse and mix apples and pears, because it will be more honest to say arrivederci, goodbye, auf Wiedersehen to this world, and go completely and live in the mountains, live in the forest, in the jungles, and not have it. Live primitive life, very close to nature, then it's honest. But if we live here, shop, converse, this, that, and that, part of the system, part of the matrix, we can't be complacent. Because in no time we will be in service of the energies we think we are, in fact, completely have no clue. So, and on the kind of like that simple human level, whenever we feel conflicted, whenever we feel in conflict with anyone, which is the daily situations, we should remind ourselves, I am the one who will let go. I have the strength to hold consciousness. I will. Even if I'm completely right, this is totally wrong, I should stand the ground. Let it go. It's the time, see? This is where that principle of non-harming is more important. That's where we not allow these forces of light and darkness that settling their affairs, to settle their affairs here at the expense of us being caught in the middle. We always take the side of the light. See? And taking side of the light is very, very simple. It requires clarity. Clarity and understanding. Not allowing emotions to cloud our perception. Not to suppress them, but soon as there is a flicker of understanding, peace, peace, peace. May there be peace. So thank you for bringing this